Okay, so today we are going to talk about conditionals. Essentially, conditionals are just a complex sentence containing a main clause and a subordinate clause. Okay? And we have our table of contents here so you guys can easily navigate. I will send a PowerPoint to you guys and you guys can look through it at your own leisure. So like I said, conditional sentences consist of two clauses, a main clause and a subordinate clause. And this is the form of that conditional sentences always will appear in. And I'll show you what I mean. So, if you churn the cream from a cow, you will get butter. Okay, in this example, if you churn the cream from a cow, highlighted in green there, is our subordinate clause. And you will get butter is our main clause. And when I mean my main clause, it's the main part of the sentence, the meaty part. So you got your subject and your verb. It can stand on its own. The subordinate clause just kind of adds to it, alright? And typically, the subordinate clause always begins with if, like we see here. So if you churn the cream from a cow, you will get butter. Okay? We can also switch the position of the subordinate and the main clause. So let's start with our main clause. We can go skiing tomorrow if there is enough snow. So we can go skiing tomorrow. That's going to be our main clause. And if there is enough snow is our subordinate clause. And we can identify it by the if here at the beginning of the clause. Okay, moving on to meaning. How do we make meaning out of conditional sentences? Okay, so conditional sentences express three different kinds of relationships. And we're going to go into more detail of each of these three different relationships, but first I'd just like to kind of present them to you. Okay? First kind of relationship is factual conditional relationships. Alright? Second kind, future or predictive conditional relationships. Third kind being imaginative conditional relationships. For you. I've got a short video on future conditional relationships that might help you guys remember a little bit more. We got a clip from the movie Back to the Future with an example of a future or predictive conditional sentence. So listen up and see if you guys can identify it.
My calculations are correct. When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're going to see some serious shit.
Okay, so we have the DeLorean there going into the future. Alright, that might be before y'all's time a little bit, but if you notice at the very beginning of the clip, we have our future conditional sentence, which is, if my calculations are correct, you're about to see some serious stuff. Alright, moving on. Okay, so some more details about the first type of conditional relationship, being factual conditional sentences. And there are four types of factual conditional sentences: generic, habitual, implicit, and explicit. The first, generic, is typically used with science or math and to state facts or laws or rules. Okay, so we have our example: if oil is mixed with water, it floats. As second type, habitual, if Nancy said jump, Bob jumped. So this is our fact. It's something that happens so frequently. We know that Bob always jumps when Nancy says jump. That we can call it a fact. Okay, it's a habit for these two folks. Third kind being implicit. If he was there, he saw the accident. Okay, so we're implying that he saw the accident. And the fourth kind, explicit. If he was there, he must have seen the accident. So just a little bit different from implicit. You are essentially conveying the same message, but with a bit stronger of an attitude. Okay, so he must have seen the accident. All right, we're saying there's no question about it. Okay, it's fact. Okay, second type of conditional relationships being future or predictive conditional sentences. And there's two essential types of future conditional sentences. The first being strong condition and result, and the second being weakened condition or result. Okay, so let's look at the first, strong condition and result. If it rains, I'll stay home. So, if it rains, there's no question. I'm going to stay home. If it rains, we're not sure if it's going to rain or not. That's in the future, okay? But if it does, I'm definitely going to stay home. That's just where we feel strongly about that. Second type, weakened conditional result. We still don't know if it's going to rain or not because it's in the future, okay? So if it rains, I may stay home. So a little bit of a weakened result there, okay? So if it rains, we still don't know if it's going to rain or not. I may stay home or I may go out of the house. We're not sure, okay? Third type of conditional relationship being imaginative conditionals. And there are two types of imaginative conditionals. Hypotheticals and counterfactuals. Here's your first example of hypothetical conditional. If Joe had the time, he would go to Mexico. Okay, so this is a hypothetical situation in that Joe doesn't have the time, but if he did, he would go to Mexico. And this isn't to be confused with future conditional sentences. All right? And the second type of imaginative conditional is counterfactual conditionals. If my great-grandmother were alive today, she would be very disappointed. Okay, this one's a little bit trickier to grasp, but the basic form of it is we have our subordinate sentence, if my great-grandmother were alive today. So this is imaginative. She's not alive today. But if she were, then we make our main sentence statement. She would be very disappointed. Okay? So, again, we're using our imagination to create a conditional sentence to state, if my great-grandmother were alive today, she would be very disappointed. Okay, so we've gone through, we started with the form of conditional sentences, moved on to the meaning, and now we're going to talk about the use of conditional sentences. How can you actually use these sentences in writing and in spoken word? Okay, so there's three different main uses of conditional sentences. All right, sentence initial if clauses, which basically means the subordinate clause comes first, right? If I had $1 million, I would buy a new house. Okay, this form of conditional sentences with the if clause in the initial spot or at the beginning account for almost 80% of conditionals. Okay, so this is the most common form that you're going to see. Okay, and then we have initial if clauses in speech. These clauses occur in oral speech and are rarely found in written discourse. Okay, and third type, sentence final if clauses. These occur much less frequently than sentence initial if clauses. Remember we said that sentence initial if clauses account for 80% of conditionals. So there's a much smaller percentage where we see sentence final if clauses. This just means that the if clause comes after the main clause, okay? So like our sentence in the beginning, we will go skiing if it snows, okay? That's an example of sentence final if clause. We have some examples of initial if clauses, okay? So there's many different ways you can use these clauses. And I'll just go through all of them. Using if clauses and directives. If you look out the left side of the bus, you'll see man's Chinese theater. It's just a little bit more polite than saying, hey, look out to your left. Okay? Using if clauses and polite requests. If I could just have your attention for a moment instead of, hey, listen up. It's just a bit more polite, all right? Using if clauses to speak humorously or sarcastically. If you are a Scottish lord, then I am Mickey Mouse. Okay, so that's an imaginative clause we have there because I'm not a Scottish lord and you're not Mickey Mouse, but we get some humor from it. An offer. If I can bring something besides donuts, just let me know. Command. If you don't show up with donuts, don't show up at all. An apology. If I've offended you about the donuts, I'm very sorry. Evaluation. If you've gained weight, it's probably because you eat donuts all the time. Warning. Unless you bring those donuts, I will never speak to you again. So we see in the last one an example of a conditional sentence that doesn't have an if at the beginning of the subordinate clause. But we don't always have to use if, although it is most common. Here we see unless. Okay, so there's different ways you can form conditional sentences. Here's our little donut graphic. Okay, use sentence final if clauses to function as afterthoughts or reminders. Do you still want to go to the park? If you want. To soften an imperative. Let's go to the park later, if that's okay with you. To follow an evaluation. I think it would be better if we went now. To follow with a question. Well, why don't we go now, if you think that's better? Okay, so just to recap, we use conditionals when we are not certain if something has happened or will happen. And here's a short video, guys, to kind of tie it all together.
Hades is gonna kill us when he finds out what happened. You mean if he finds out? Of course he's gonna put... If is good.
Okay, so if is good. Okay, so if Hades finds out, then these two are going to be in big trouble. All right, so just let me know if you guys have any questions, and I will send this PowerPoint to you. Thank you.